So now that we have our Photoshop set up and ready to go, I want to let you know a couple of real basics when it comes to layers. These kind of tips and tricks are going to come in handy when we move forward in this lesson and we get to work on a couple of image projects together. So one of the first things that I always find really important is making sure that my layers are named correctly. This helps with workflow. This helps with making sure you know in what order your things on the canvas all are. If you don't name your layers as you go along, you might find that you lose track of what is what, and it can get really messy and really frustrating and quite frankly very overwhelming. You'll see over here on the right hand side, the default layer name is background. You'll see that it also comes locked, which means if I go over here and I try and click and drag this around, it will tell me I can't because it is locked. So it's currently a background layer. I don't want it to be locked anymore. The quickest and easiest way to unlock it is either pressing this lock or renaming the layer. So if you double click on the name, this new layer will pop up. It will ask me what I want to call it. Let's call this our white layer. Click OK, and you'll see that the lock has disappeared. This is now called white layer. And if I try and move this around, I'm actually moving this white layer that we have made for ourselves. On Photoshop, this kind of gridded gray and white square here indicates transparency. So if I were to save this as a picture, as a PNG file, which we'll go into a little bit later, this grid here will be blank. These squares won't be there at the end. It will be completely empty. So I'm going to move this back into the middle. You can see where it's lined up. This is our white layer. The next thing I want to tell you is how to duplicate a layer, how to make a copy of the layer that we currently have. So there are a few ways of doing this, but the most simple way to do this is to either two-finger click or right-click on this layer. Don't click on the text, click on the layer next to it. And we're going to hit duplicate layer. And it will ask us what we want to call this layer. Right now it's called white layer copy. I'm going to leave that for now and hit OK, and you'll see that we have two separate layers. I'm going to color this a different color, so I'm coming over here to my color picker tool, double clicking on that, and let's make this a nice blue color. So I'm choosing this with my eyedropper tool. This is the color we want. This is the color we have. Click OK. I'm going to grab our paint bucket tool and simply just color this blue. And now I'm going to name this our blue layer. So to do that, you double click on the name and you can call it blue layer. Hit enter and we have our two layers named. Now I've just gone back and I've hit this plus tool up the top here, this sort of grabber tool. I like to do that after doing any sort of move because it's a very neutral way to interact with your canvas. If I had the paint bucket tool still, I may accidentally color something in that I don't want. So once you've finished doing something, come back over and hit that plus button. It's a much safer tool to use. So you'll notice all we can see is the blue. We cannot see our white layer at all, and that is because of the order in which our layers are in. Our blue layer is up top, and our white layer is underneath. And this operates just like a bird's eye view, so we can only see what is on top and then going down. So if I were to change the order layer here, I'm going to click and press and drag it down until I get that little blue line and release it. You'll see that my blue layer is now underneath and all we can see over here is our white layer. That means our white layer is on top and our blue layer is underneath. If I were to move this over a little bit, you can see our blue is behind it. So I'm going to pop that back. Now, another way to see what layers are underneath each other is this eye tool right here. And this lets you know if the layer is on visually or off. If I were to press this right now, you'll see that this white layer has completely disappeared from our canvas. We haven't deleted this layer, we've simply turned it off visually. If I were to press the eyeball tool again, it turns it back on and it's the only thing that we can see. I'm going to make one more layer here just to show you another way of duplicating a layer. I'm going to take our white layer, click and hold, drag it all the way down onto this brand new piece of paper button and then release it. And you'll see that it has instantly created us a new layer. I'm going to pick one more color, like a pale pink, click OK, use our paint tool, color it pink, come over here and make sure we rename our layer so that we don't get confused. Now I'm writing the word layer, obviously you don't need to do that, and we won't do that going forward, but this was just a really easy way to show you the order in which we are looking at our layers. So that's just a few basics with layers. You can see if I were to move my colors around, we've got pink on top, we have white next, and then we have our blue layer last. You can see blue is behind, then white, and then pink is on top. To make sure that you're interacting with the layer that you want, come across to the right-hand side on the layers panel and select the layer that you want. Hold the command key on your keyboard, and when you click, you'll make sure that you're interacting with the layer that you have selected. If you come across to this canvas and you just start clicking around, if I want to move the blue layer, but I start clicking here, you'll see that it thinks that I want to touch the pink layer, which I don't. So once again, if I want to move the blue layer, click it over here, make sure that it's been highlighted, hold the command key, and then click around, and you'll make sure that you move the layer that you want to be moving. Okay, great. So have a play around with that, with a couple different layers, a few different colors, and reorder them into whichever way you like. And I'll see you in the next lesson for a few more tips.